Okay. As a preliminary matter, this is Rob Benchley, permitted to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. This would be for the today's Sconset Advisory Board meeting. Oh, right. Caroline Ellis. All right, she's waving. There we go. Mary Lathrop Will.
Hello.
Hello, Angus McLeod.
Here.
Clement Durkes and
Here.
Rob Benchley. Do we have any anticipated speakers? I don't think so. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is the open meeting of the Sconset Advisory Board being conducted remotely and consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12th, 2020. Due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we've been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of the public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting may feature public comment. For this meeting, the Sconset Advisory Board is convening by video conference via Zoom app is posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of the body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. Now we're turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover a few ground rules, effective and clear conduct of our business and ensure accurate minutes. I'll introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude the remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember that to mute your phone or computer when you're not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. After the members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged and speak through the chair. Each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. With that, I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
Thank you, and I'll go down the list. Caroline Ellis. She's muted, that's okay. Mary Lathrop Will.
Yes.
Thank you. Angus McLeod.
Yes.
Clement Durkes.
Yes.
And Rob Benchley. Motion made, seconded, and is unanimous. So we're on new business. This is Mixed Doubles LLC, 22 King Street for a shed. I've looked over the application, and seems to me it's pretty well hidden and obscured, and I'm not sure that it's visible.
My Lord Chairman, may I hear?
Please.
I have also looked this over. It is barely visible. It's perfectly fine I commented last week when we got this after the meeting that I thought that the doodah on the top of the thing was a little bit over the top, shall we say, but that is my only concern, and honestly, that shouldn't hold it up. The doodah on the roof.
The little cupola thing.
Yeah.
Cupola for, basically for ventilation, but I see they've got vents on the eave ends too, so.
My guess is it's just a standard thing that shed building company in Harwich puts on, but it's those cupolas are a signature of a Royal Barry Wills design that is not present here. So who cares? But honestly, who cares?
Is this?
Anybody have any other comments?
Is this in the southwest corner where those two arrows are at the setbacks?
Yeah,
Yeah, this isn't going to be visible.
just from the courts.
That's not exactly public, is it?
Not so
I don't have any issues with it.
Okay.
I
All
believe
right.
this was put on your agenda mainly because of the fact, and not put on consent for the HDC because of that little cupola.
Cupola?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks like the 6/1 windows, I think, match the home. You all can correct me if I'm wrong on that. They should match the home.
They don't appear to.
No, those are 6/6.
Oh, yeah. No, actually, they do no, those aren't 6/6.
Is it 6/1? I can't tell.
They're 6/6, I think.
Yeah, they look like 6/1s.
Perfect.
Oh,
They
do
should
they?
match.
All right. Whatever.
So no concerns?
No concerns. It looks
concerns.
like a little dollhouse in the back.
I
Thank you.
see, not to labor it, but I see that the house is 6/1, but it seems weird for a shed to have 6/1s. I'd prefer to see 6/6 if the thing hasn't already been ordered.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Yeah.
I do believe that the policies are for the windows, any fenestration is supposed to match the main home from policies that I've seen. But
I know, it just seems weird for a little shed to have a 6/1. It's all about an open view on the lower part, and there's not much of view happening from that shed, I don't think.
right. All right. Good on that.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. And moving on to the land bank application for
Yes.
shade in the playground at Codfish Park.
Which we have received lots of comments, both for and against. So
Do we have anyone representing?
not that I'm aware of, not here. I know Kadeem lets all the applicants know when they're, on the agenda for you all. Were
I
you,
want-
did you all review the original that came through?
What was the original?
I guess this was like a year or so ago, maybe even longer.
Yeah, we did. We did. Julie,
Okay.
actually, I feel like she came and met with us in the meeting room. That's my recollection. We talked about they would have preferred to do shade trees, but they weren't growing fast enough. This idea of the shades has been talked about in the Civic Association for the last couple of years. And I wasn't originally a proponent, but the fact that these are seasonal, which would be better, I think. You obviously want to take them down before they're going to be shredded by winter storms and all of that sort of thing. And if they're thinking of them seasonally, then that's fine from my standpoint. I have to say that the picture that they showed us of the sort of aqua blue ones was very attractive.
Oh, isn't that funny? It was just the opposite, Mary. Isn't that funny? I love the white, but I think the
I would go with
blue-
white.
Yeah, the blue is too shocking to me. If I were looking at it from above, from my house, I would want just white.
To me, this is Angus. I feel like this is probably the only contemporary looking structure in Sconset of this sort of significance of size and shape. And I appreciate the idea of needing to have shade. I would prefer to see something that is more historical in context, whether it's a pergola or a gazebo or a tent that's open on the sides, but some kind of something. I understand the need for shade, and if resistance has been met with all the others, and this is the only thing that would be accepted by the powers that be, I would rather see it done with white canvas.
Thank you, Angus. This is Rob. I think considering all the history of this playground and there's been a lot, as we know and may remember, there's been a lot of squabbling about it. I'm aware of a letter written by the new owners of Svargaloka, and they're definitely not in favor of it. My initial reaction was, this is really not good. The whole thing is not good, but it's there now. And I agree that some shade is going to be good. And I also think that white would be better. And I also, something a little more traditional. I agree with that thought, particularly for the people who have voiced concern over the shape of the proposed. So I guess I'm agreeing with everybody else.
Well,
Initially,
this is
I didn't.
Clem- Well, can I interrupt you, Rob, or sorry, if you're not finished,
Yeah,
go ahead.
please. Well,
Well,
no, I'm finished. I mean,
oh,
I initially
okay.
was against it because of the whole history. Here's one more thing, but it's just shade. So, okay, I'm done. Thank you, Clement. Go.
Okay, I don't know, this to me is kind of appalling. I think Codfish Park, we're trying so hard to keep Codfish Park genuine. I guess they want shade, but hats and sunscreen are what we're used to. So I really don't like it.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'm not trying to brush it off. I'm about to change my mind here.
Well, I do think that everyone's comments, for the most part, of wanting something more traditional looking than this, I think that would be taken highly in consideration for the commission. Because I agree too.
Yeah.
Holly, it's Clement. Can I ask but aside from the land bank, who is pushing for this? Has this been something that the Civic Association wants, or that I don't know about? Mary has a history more of it.
Yeah, this is Mary. I can speak to that. Kate Stoller was the main proponent. And when she was on the Civic Association board, she was flogging it annually. She had seen these used out in Colorado and in San Diego, and she thought that they were excellent and provided the shade that was required, yet they weren't permanent structures and they were relatively inexpensive to provide the shade. So Kate was the primary proponent, and the young mothers kind of fell in line with that. We did manage to stave off having them for, I would guess, probably 4 or 5 years. So, I mean, we're at that point now where the land bank is on board, apparently, having given up on the shade tree and pergola ideas. So that's where we are at this point.
Thanks.
Yeah, hi, it's Rob. I am gonna change my tune. I agree with sunscreen and broad brimmed hats. Because everybody up on the bluff's got to look at it. And the whole Codfish Park thing that we're trying to stave off is all a part of it. So I'm not in favor.
This is Caroline. I think Clement is right. You know, Mary bringing back the Colorado thing is sort of appalling. And I think, you know, there used to be at parks in New England that I remember, they were poles with a roof. Do you remember? And sometimes it looked like the roof of a barn, and there'd be picnic tables under it. Forest
Yeah.
Park, lots
They
of
kind
different
Like,
parks.
they look like tobacco barns, Caroline.
They did, but without the sides.
Yeah.
You know, they were just wooden roofs with the posts that they show here, actually, sort of, but just posts. And so it gave you shelter from the rain, and you could sit on a picnic table under these in the shade. Would be more traditional to me. But I agree basically with the sunscreen and hat, you know, opinion. So I would not, I don't think this is appropriate.
Thank you, Carolyn. I guess that's the consensus. So
Sounds good.
should we move on?
Mhm.
Absolutely. So this is the 22 Cannonberry Lane. This is another one in that subdivision. I will say that the day that it went to HDC for one reason or another, it did not go on you all for comments, and that was noted, as you see in the comments from me in the minutes. So I sympathize that this is the first time you're looking at it. You know the context of Cannonberry. This is the lot in question
Mhm.
right here. I'll move these around so you all can see. Some of these existing ones being constructed. It's nice to see photos part of context.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. I was a little confused by all of the material at the very end of this submission for the plots back on Low Beach Road and all of that. I'm not sure why all of those plot plans were included, but whatever. I mean, I know exactly where this house is, so I wasn't in that respect.
So here's the lot right here, almost in the middle. Very far back off the road.
Woo.
Yeah.
Lori. Wow.
Mm.
So I'll just give you a brief synopsis. Diane Coombs mentioned that there were a lot of mold windows. Carrie indicated that there was no symmetry with the front door, which I'm lost on where that is now.
Oh,
Abby,
Oh, wait, can you show us the front door?
It's next.
there we go. Okay,
Thank you.
much.
And they've changed it, right? This submission changes the front door a bit. It was even worse in the
Yes,
bottom
which you really
corner.
can't see.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Front entry needs redesign. This is from Abby. Gambrel looks like it's pasted on, odd, too tall, overwhelming. Chimney would be nice. I don't see that they added a chimney. So obviously would love your comments. It's hard to
It's a
discern.
very big house. This is Rob, and I I feel like I want to put a howitzer cannon on that widow's walk, on that roof walk.
So,
It-
This
it-
is
it-
Mary.
It,
I think
it,
the widow's walk.
it
really-
seems really, really burly to me. Especially those masses on either end. There's a hip roof on one and a regular on the other. They just, it kind of looks like a hotel.
Yeah,
And
it's kind of, this is Mary. It's kind of awful. And by the way, why would you have a roof walk when there's no chimney? I mean, that's just idiocy. Obviously, because they want to have the view. It's an upside down house anyway, I noted. But it's like, hello, do you have any sense of historical context? I mean, maybe they don't need it down there, but it also smacks of the Renahan house that Rob, you kindly showed us with superimposed red windmill sails on the
windmill sails. Yes.
Yeah. on the front gate, on the Dutch gable.
Yes.
Thank you. I always enjoy that image. I will say that I think that I think it's the east side of the house, but the left-hand side of the house, that addition doesn't work for me. That secondary mass, the one on the right is better, not great.
This thing.
Yeah. No, the next
Funky.
one
So
over.
the next
Oh,
thing,
that
Yeah, that one. It's like, really?
with the flare.
Yeah. I mean,
Single
that
style.
of, 1920s in the suburbs look about it. I mean, it would look just fine in Newton, but really on Annenberry?
Yeah. And, or, maybe Cliff Road.
Yeah.
no, I wouldn't do that to Cliff Road.
Okay.
It's awful. Oh, so now what on the lower right? That shows the two wings that were similar. Isn't that
That
right?
Currently approved, or actually, I think that's a little disingenuous. This house has never been approved, but it says on the
Correct.
lower HDC approval. I can't see because, yeah, approval set. Don't be fooled by the word approval.
Correct.
I see.
Correct. This went before the HDC on the 5th of October, and they did not receive approval. It was asked for revisions.
And the revisions were that, as Abby said, to remove the part of the front that she objected to. Is that what they would be going back to do?
Yeah, they're required to listen to the commissioners, and they make their comments and synthesize, the changes that need to be made.
And so then, have they made them or not?
Some,
Some, yeah, I wouldn't say all of them. You still have you have some. Looks like they separated a lot of these windows,
Oh,
comparing,
God.
but still.
Horrific.
Looks like the Gamble.
but they
house.
kept those 4 slider doors. They're all awful. The 4 sliders up and down. I mean, you see them in the middle of the house. Those are sliding doors, and the ones up top are sliding doors.
And 3 second floor decks in that elevation. This is Rob, sorry to interrupt. 3 second floor decks. And the Widow's Walk. And I appreciate their submitting the other photographs representing the other houses. Not one of them has a Widow's Walk, a roof walk on it. And I just find this house very boastful, and it's not part of what part of the Sconset thing.
No.
If a house can be boastful, this is boastful.
Good point, Rob. I think you're absolutely right.
You can boast with your pool. Please don't boast with a house.
Oh, God, we'll get that next submission.
So Holly, this is Caroline, I'm sorry. Something has happened to my viewing and stuff. So the proposed front elevation is being now proposed back. They've taken the comments that we've heard, and this is what they're proposing.
This is what they've proposed based on the comments. Yep.
I mean, the two wings don't even bear any relationship to each other, do they?
No, they don't. No.
I think the Widow's Walk is a shame,
It is, agreed.
and I just don't understand the nose on the house.
Snout.
Hmm.
Are they putting an elevator in so they can take the groceries up to the second floor?
I think the staff will do that, Rob.
Okay.
I did find it curious, this is Mary, that they have a mudroom on the second floor.
And is this a designer that normally designs on Nantucket?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Warren Clater Architects. I haven't heard of them,
Yeah.
but I could be wrong.
Should we send them the book? Or should we make references to the book for guidance? Rather than saying not this, not that.
Right.
I mean, is that a more positive way to say? Why would you show the other pictures and then?
Right. I don't know why those are in there.
Yeah, that's the part I didn't know. I thought
Yeah,
that
I
was.
don't. There's got to be a reason for it.
6 or 6s. It's
They,
hard
they
to
have
tell
changed.
all
They have
shapes.
changed some. They changed some windows.
Yep.
Are they 1/1s or 6/6s?
They,
Well,
well, these look like they're 9/9. The ones that are flanking the front door.
The graphics are really hard to read.
They are.
Mhm.
I agree.
that may be intentional.
I would separate the windows in that front Dutch gable so that they're not molded together. But to tell you the truth, guys, I prefer this to almost anything I've seen in Canterbury so far, and that probably says a lot. You know, it's somewhat traditional beach cottage, and the roof deck. There's some details that don't work with it. But working those out, it breaks up the really long roof line. I would prefer to see a smaller scale, but there's a lot that's being built out there that's huge. And in some ways, to my eye, this seems simpler than a lot of just all the stuff that's going on out there. The 2-panel door, I don't think is appropriate. There could be a better, if those really are 9/9s, you know, maybe that front door could have a whole bunch of little lights in it or something and 2 panels below or something. The 2-panel doesn't look right. And it really is hard to see what the windows are. But like I said, I would prefer to see this than almost anything that I've seen built on Canterbury so far.
Huh.
As you might be able to read into that, I'm not really a fan of what I've seen on Canterbury so far.
Noted.
Understood. Yeah, I think they did revise the roof walk.
Did they eliminate it?
Oh, no, no, it's still there, but I think it's been revised a little bit with the skirting. It's hard to see that on here, but yeah.
Says something about change to traditional
Yes,
or typical. Typical is the word.
typical roof walk change to typical.
This is Mary. I would argue there is no typical roof walk in Canterbury. It's pointless. You need a roof walk when you have a chimney so that you can prevent chimney fires. They don't have a chimney.
Right.
Chimney would be good.
Yes. That's what Abby said.
Oh, I see. So this is Rob, the back side of the house where I made the comments about the decks. That's on the back side.
Yeah, it overlooks the sewer beds or the sewer station.
Do we know why they included all those plot plans at the end?
No, I don't know.
They're as-built and maybe just as examples of what's in the neighborhood.
Possibly.
Does
No.
eliminate material change on roof mean? I thought I'd looked at this, but I clearly didn't understand it.
I'm not too sure.
The roof is wood.
Yeah. Night door change to windows. It's odd.
Oh, I see. That's a gambrel. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. There's a lot of different roof styles going on.
You know, it does look like the Gamble house, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah,
Oh,
little of this, little of that. Oh, well.
All set?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Now, I will note that their 33 Coffin Street was put on here incorrectly. It was actually supposed to be approved through staff.
Okay.
So I think Kadeem mentioned that in his email to us. He just didn't revise it with the posting. So that one's not on there.
Is that the Watrous house, Mary?
The one that Chip Webster
Yeah,
came by? Yeah.
it's the now the Gabriels.
Where it's come in a few times.
That
With some
yeah.
changes.
There's
And there,
Left of that house, by the way. I mean, Clement and I have walked by it a couple of times. It's has barely any walls still standing.
I think
Wow.
there's
Yeah,
one chimney left.
One chimney. I agree. Saw it yesterday.
Wow.
yeah, I wanted to comment. I wanted to comment on that. This is a prime example of when we look at those plans originally, and with the whole thing with the pool and that addition that sort of faces the pool, that was kind of cool. And
Mhm.
but there were no indications on that application that this house was going to be a tear down. And I know it's not a historic house,
Yeah.
but there was very little that was obvious that they were going to take it down in the chimney and start over again.
Right.
And I don't know if they're building back exactly what was on that plan but anyway, it was a tear down. And I just feel like we got duped by an application that didn't really say that.
No, it didn't. I agree. Interesting. Okay.
You know, anyway, just a comment.
I agree with you, Rob. There should be an understanding that if an application is for an addition or some sort of alteration, that's the only part that's getting altered. And if the rest of the house fabric is getting tampered with in any way, that should be part of the application.
Good point.
I agree.
Yeah,
And it's someone, excuse me, this is Caroline, it's someone who knows the island and knows the HDC, so it isn't an oversight
Right.
to me, to my way of thinking. It's intentional.
yeah.
I have talked, this is Mary, I have talked with the owners a couple of times. I'm not sure they understood that that was what was going to happen. I think this was something between the builders and the architect, because the owners really didn't strike me as being interested in removing all walls and everything else.
So wasteful.
Interesting.
Yeah. And it's going in our landfill.
Definitely not sustainable. Not at all. We're promoting sustainability as much as possible.
Well,
So as far as other business goes, you all see on your agenda about Resilient Nantucket. That's that MVP program or MVP action grant that we received, that we've been working on design guidelines specifically with our FEMA flood areas. Obviously during COVID, we're still having to move forward. The state is really asking us to just do what we can to move it forward. So last month we had the kind of community understanding of what flood adaptation is, with professionals in the state and whatnot. This is going to be an actual charrette with our consultants, with going over proposed pretty much guidelines being presented. So this is going to be via Zoom webinar. Again, it's going to be on the 14th of November, which is a Saturday, from 10 to 1, hopefully to have some correspondence, get some energized people involved. We're planning a follow-up with just the HDC probably in a few weeks after that, depending on planning schedules and whatnot. But this is going to be good. The other consultant that who has done design guidelines all across the country, who's also a member of the National Alliance of Preservation Commissions. He's a board member, very well known in the adaptation world and preservation world. He'll be running that. So I just got the credentials from our lovely Zoom folks with NCTV, and we're gonna have that on the 14th. So please put that on your calendar. Would love to have your input. Again, this is going to be the start of what is going to be considered Nantucket appropriate. And even though COVID has hindered him from physically coming here, he's actually had folks in Nantucket in the preservation world helping him out, looking at what our historic context is. So that's good to note. And then we all have on here, oh, sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, Holly, that you've done a tremendous job getting this thing going, and I'm looking forward to sitting in.
Thank you. Yep, we're supposed to have these by the state's request, because again, this is an action grant. We're supposed to have these design guidelines firmed up and accepted and approved by the HDC by June, I believe. So this is part of that municipal vulnerability preparedness state. It's pretty much an initiative with the governor. And one of the things that the action grant does is that they're looking to provide funding to communities where it can be replicated in other locations. So we also have communities on the Cape who have reached out to us. They've been following us. Actually even in Rhode Island, other community MVP kind of type programs have also been watching this. So, you know, we're kind of leading the way in that regard, and we're very happy to be able to work with our colleagues on the Cape. You know, because again, there's this misunderstanding, and this is why I brought camp coming, an NAPC camp coming as well right before this, because it's very imperative to understand the difference between what, you know, a local historic district is versus a National Historic Landmark. And Nantucket has a lot of benefits in that regard, especially when it comes to, you know, exemptions from certain instances of elevation. And it's, you know, just because FEMA says you have to have X, Y, and Z as your base flood elevation isn't necessarily the case. And obviously we want to make sure that both our built environment and our both existing and infill is, you know, done appropriately, and that it also takes in consideration our streetscapes. And so I'm just, at the end of the day, I'm very happy that our consultant is also involved in working as a sub-consultant with the consultant that was hired for the Coastal Resiliency Plan, which will be kicking off with staff in the Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee and our coordinator, Vince Murphy. That's going to be kicking off next month too. So having a consultant that's consistent with the whole process is going to make sure we're not going to have these silos, if you will, within our built environment and protection of our National Historic Landmark. So kind of went on a sidebar, but we're trying to keep on track with this schedule. Of course, as you probably are aware, they have a scope that they you know, answered to. We have a scope with the state, so we need to make sure, even with the fact that we've got COVID and have to do everything digital, we still have to keep on track. So I'm looking forward to it. So I appreciate all the input and you know, just involvement with it. So thank you. As far as your advisory areas for discussion goes, we got this on the agenda so you all can talk about that.
Yeah, we had talked, I think what sort of re-energized the idea of expanding our area of influence was the redo of the Rochade House on Low Beach Road. And I don't think it's been made, well, I don't know if there's a delineated district that we go by, because sometimes it's, you know, like I said before, sometimes we see houses north of Sankaty, and we haven't for some time, but we used to. And I just think it should be delineated. And I had said earlier that maybe we might consider or talk about the idea of being an overlay with someone like the perimeters of the Sconset Trust, what the Sconset Trust considers their area, and the Civic Association. You know, if it's all consistent in one thing, then I think it makes life a lot easier. I mean, that would increase our applications some, but and I guess we would have to come up with something written to propose to the larger HDC, I guess, and then that would have to go to town meeting. Is that what we're? Or not?
This would be a new one for me, because, you know, at the end of the day, you all are an arm of the HDC. You're just advising the HDC on these specific applications. So you're not part of the special act, if you will.
Okay.
whereas obviously the HDC themselves are. So that's where for instance, when you've all submitted to be a part of this committee, your approval, acceptance, if you will, is done through the HD solely, unlike most committees where they're done by the select board. So I think the HDC themselves just has to accept that. I don't believe it, but I'd have to ask. And unfortunately, Kathy's not here today for me to ask, because I know she knows more about it than I do. But do you, and I know, I know Historic Structures has a map. I have it on my wall. But I'm not privy to a actual map that you all have for your jurisdiction areas in addition to what the old historic district is.
Yeah.
Holly and Rob, this is Clement. I can say that the Civic Association has a map that I believe was presented to them by the planning board, because we're redoing the Sconset area planning
Yes.
treatise, or whatever you call it.
Yes.
And that map went, as I recall, I saw it. I can get it back from Lynn Filipsky, but it went basically kind of down Hoyks Hollow,
Mhm.
and then across Sankaty, and then whether it included Nantucket Golf Club, I can't remember, but it crosses Milestone and goes down the, I guess that would be the north side of Tom Nevers Pond.
Right. So
the
what you're
end of Low Beach Road. Yeah.
so Clement, what you're referencing is the area plan for
Yeah.
Sconset, which is a thing through the master plan, and we're going obviously starting the master plan update. So, but I think they could be the same, but I don't think they are, because the area plan obviously expands more than just the old historic district that was established in 55.
Definitely.
So, yeah. So, but if that's something that you're wanting to say, hey, well, wait a minute, this is what we include as our area plan. We would like to have oversight over these areas as well, in addition to what the old historic district is. I would just, maybe think of it that way, if that's what you're all wanting to propose. But I would recommend trying to decide on that.
Is there a way that, excuse me, this is Caroline. Clement, is there a way that we all could see that? Because
Yes.
I think it would help the HDC if we reviewed everything in Sconset. It would, I would hope, lighten their load and give them direction as to what the opinion of this group was. But it also, it's consistent with something that already exists.
Right.
I agree completely. What you described for those bounds, Clement, is what I was assuming was under the purview of the Sconset Advisory. Every place in that bound is something that would be described as Sconset, and we're the Sconset Advisory Group. So our bounds have always been beyond the old historic in Sconset, and I believed that it really was from Hoyks Hollow to the end of Low Beach Road and everything in between. And to Holly's point, this is, we're an arm of the HDC, so it's not like we're going to bring something to town meeting to change our purview. This is through the HDC. So I think if we just give this map that you described, Clement, to the HDC and say, this is what we, thought was our plan. This is what we, expect is our plan. Can you accept that?
I will email you all the area plan that's been adopted by the NPDC so far. Obviously, as Clement mentioned, this is the time with master planning updates, if you will, to all the area plans. Obviously, if they're changing it, that would be one story. But if you all are wanting to match, again, I will say this. Because I'm not involved with the day-to-day receiving applications and separating them, all that stuff, I do know there's a list of street names for each advisory board areas. I just don't know if there's an actual map that was been created. I would have to ask, and I've only seen the one from HSAB. So, but yes, I would agree that if you're wanting to have a boundary map and are on the same page as where you all want to have your purview, then basically requesting to match the area plans map, I don't see why not. That couldn't be a request to the HDC. As you all are aware, we're definitely seeing a lot more infill, seeing a lot more outsides of those boundary areas. So I will email that to you all. Take a look at it. Let me know yay or nay, and I guess we can keep this on the agenda.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Good
Mhm.
outcome.
Yeah, that's great. Just to be consistent, and we are witnessing the expansion of Sconset and the infilling, and it would be a shame if it got out of hand.
I would just say, this is Mary, and I would just say that there are some areas that traditionally have not come, we have not seen the submissions. I'm not entirely certain that anybody ever saw the submissions, and there's been some problem. I would say that all of the Lenox Way, Windsor development has gone completely without our oversight, and it might have benefited from some of that. I mean, the used house lot was a disaster. I mean, it's an ecological disaster, but the fact that all that stuff's been out there, and the coffins have basically been beyond anybody's oversight in that area. But that's very definitely now within the purview of, or that is within the bounds of Sconset. So.
Well, I'll say, I mean, the fact that we're looking at things on Hydrangea Lane, but
Yes.
not on Low Beach Road.
It's illogical
Mhm.
or inconsistent.
So I would love to get that solidified as to that we're all using the same map as to what is Sconset. So that would be great, Holly. Thank you for your help.
Do the other members
Absolutely.
need to see that map, or it sounds like that map that you're describing, Holly, are the bounds that you described, Clement. Should we just
Yeah.
go ahead and submit that as our zone?
I would definitely recommend having it consistent with that. Yes, that area plan.
So does
It does
everyone
sound-
need to see that, or should we just go ahead and say, Holly, please, send that to the HTC and say, this is what we want to cover?
Let me email it to you, and let me talk to Kathy, because again, she knows more of the boundaries than I do, as far as figuring out what goes with what. I've had questions in the past as well. I just don't want to step on anybody's toes first and be incorrect on something. So let me
No, I appreciate
find
you
that
go through.
and
yeah, go through
email
your
that
proper
you all.
channels.
Okay. But yes, if that's something that you all want to do, then that would be the next action, is to say, hey, this is what we would like to do, and ask for their blessing, I guess, if you will, on that.
Okay,
As far
that's terrific.
okay,
That's
good.
That's terrific. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, let's just keep it simple. I think I was going the unsimple route, but this is more better. If I could add a comment about that thing at the where all those nomadic houses are out there.
Yes.
I was
Windsor.
out there a few days ago, and I decided that with all the houses there that are there, and they're all on wheels and everything, we could call it could rezone it the Home Depot, because
Right.
it's a depot for homes.
Right.
Hopefully that'll get taken care of one of these days. Okay, we also have on the sort of open agenda some discussion about North Gully Road, and I know the Civic Association is talking about resurfacing that. It's
Rob, if you don't mind, before we get to that. So since we were on the advisory board areas, we also had the advisory board committee appointments. I want you all to know that it will be posted in the newspaper. I believe this week. I just actually received a copy of the proof. The Nantucket Historic District Commission is seeking members and alternate members for the following boards and councils: Sconset Advisory Board, Historic Structures Advisory Board, Mattocket Advisory Board, Sign Advisory Council, and Tuckernutt Advisory Board. Committee interest in covenant forms are available on the town's website. Obviously, you all who are at that point to reapply have received a copy. If you have not, let me know. And then the completed application must be submitted to Plus no later than 10 a.m. Thursday, November 12th. And then the HDC will appoint the applicants on their November 17th meeting. So if you have any questions, let me or Kathy know. Okay.
Holly,
There you
who's up for reappointment, and how many seats are open for Sconset Advisory?
I think Rob.
I think it's me and Clement. And I don't remember, there were 2-year terms and then there were 3 or 4-year terms, and I've forgotten what the breakdown is. And Mary, you might be.
Yeah, I think I'm up too. I think I had a shorter term and I think my term limit has been reached.
Yes. And we've noticed that. I know Kathy has has notified via, the HDC meeting, that's been something that's been kind of lagging due to the pandemic and as priorities go, if you will. They're fine with that. The chair of the HDC was fine with it, understood. So I wouldn't freak out too much about that, but at the same time, obviously we want to get it appropriate. So please resubmit if you're interested in continuing. I would love to continue working with you all. But yes, I believe, and I think the website, our town website, with your Sconset Advisory Board listing, you're on there and it gives you your expiration dates.
Oh, that's right.
For your terms. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
So does that mean that Rob and Clement need to
Yes.
reapply?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Have you all already done that?
Yes.
Good.
I'm the alternate, so I guess I reapply every year. So that's my standing.
Is there an opening for another seat that you would go to, something other than alternate, or are all those full for?
I think the Sconset Advisory only has the 4 regular, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 1 alternate. I guess is how it was established.
My
Okay.
sense was, I think that I've served for 6 years and I thought we had a 6-year term limit. So I think Clement should move towards my seat because I think I'm off.
Okay.
I'm
I'll
okay
have
where
to, I'll
I
have to
am.
ask.
Clement, we don't want you to take Rob's spot.
No, thank you. No, thank you. Captain Rob remains in his seat, unchallenged.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I've been doing this for 14 years now. So if they're term limits, nobody said anything to me.
No, I think it's just the whole reappointment thing.
Okay.
As long as you make sure you submit your form, I think you should be fine.
Okay.
Okay, now we can go to North Gully. Sorry.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't mean to take those out of order.
No,
I was out of
not
order.
a problem. It's okay.
We haven't seen anything on the North Gully, but I know the Civic Association is investigating. There's been some photographs taken and whatnot. It is pretty rugged at the top. The pavement's broken up. It looks like the town has paved the skirting at the bottom. They didn't go all the way up, and they're talking about handrails and whatnot. And I think, is it the Civic Association? Am I correct? Are they?
Yes, I can.
Oh, and they're doing it through the DPW.
Yeah, I can speak to that. Rob McNeil came to the Civic Association early in the season this past year, 2020, and said that he understood that the pavement was quite degraded and that they had to do something at the base where Bank Street and Codfish Park Road enters. anyway, where they intersect, yes. So they had done that. The rest of it, I mean, we talked about in the Civic Association meeting, I believe, we talked about the fact that historically that has been a path which had, was a simple path, but it had been paved. It had been macadam paved. So it's now just completely degraded because of shifting of the bank and roots and all of that sort of thing. At some point, there was concern about how would you get a fire engine in and out of Codfish Park or an ambulance if required, if Codfish Park Road, at Gully Road was washed out. If the erosion had taken effect and that corner was gone, and they had then said that they would have service vehicles come into the park via Middle Gully Road. Well, that's ridiculous. I mean, you couldn't possibly, given the switchback and everything else there. But so then they were thinking of North Gully, and the question is how much egress, reasonable egress is there, and do they need to then repair the road for that purpose? Anyway, that was all discussed. Rob McNeil came back with a plan, and I'm not sure where it is at this point, but I think he's the one who's really driving that as a responsible move by the DPW to stay on top of things.
Yeah, so here's a photo from August, I think. Is this from Rob or Lynn? You guys increments.
I took that one.
Okay, you
Yeah,
guys
yeah.
sent me great photos. So obviously this shows the condition of North Gully. And there was a conversation about, here's Middle Gully with the railing. And I know Lynn was concerned on having accessibility and having some type of ramp. And I think there's a couple of email correspondence about, having it consistent with what it was historically there with the herringbone pattern of Middle Gully. So I have had brief
That's
conversations.
new though. The herringbone is new, Holly.
Right. And I mean, basically what I would like to have is your opinions and direction that you would like to see with the material moving forward, because, and I mentioned this to the DPW director, Rob McNeil, that, I was going to provide this conversation, put this on the agenda for you all to discuss, to kind of come up with a recommendation, because they're just planning on putting asphalt back down, I think. And I have, as much as I know how town works, a recommendation to another material is all fine and dandy, but at the end of the day, it's going to be the cost. If you all recommend, say, hey, it should match the other gully lane, it should match aesthetically, not just asphalt that's just going to break up down the road anyways. They're gonna, at the end of the day, the town's gonna say, well, okay, that's fine, but who's gonna pay for that additional material costs and whatnot? So I don't know if the Civic Association would be able to help the town in that regard, now that the town, I do believe, does own it. These are just things that I'm thinking about from a town's perspective. But I would definitely love to get your input as an arm of the HDC.
This is Mary, and I think Rob and I can both probably speak to this. I can go back certainly 50 to 60 years as to what the makeup of that road was, because I can remember once I learned how to ride a bicycle and was allowed out on my own, that one of our great joys was to go to North Gully Road and to start at the top, riding our bicycle, take our hands off the handlebars and see if we could make the turn at the bottom without having to chicken out and put our hands back on the handlebars. I never did. I made the turn successfully and did not fall off. So that meant obviously I had to put my hands back on the bar. But it was a macadam road in those days.
It
So
was-
that's middle 60s.
I agree. Could I ask one question? This is Caroline. When you talk with Rob and I'm thinking of the emergency exit from Codfish Park, which obviously if they just put macadam back, that would be fine. But the ambulance comes up and then goes between the cat house
Yeah,
and the Diva Morano's house, and then it takes a right.
I guess so. Yeah, it goes between the Blues and Gay Dorns and then has
Right.
to be right out to the Whitneys.
And then
to
take a left.
Broadway. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, it's torturous.
Yeah, I guess that doesn't have anything to do with it, but it is not what I would call an emergency egress.
It's not a good one.
Yeah. But anyway, I think the macadam is just fine. And is this the discussion or are we going to hold a discussion?
I think that this is a continuing
Okay,
thing.
that's fine.
This is Angus. I think the picture that you're looking at is so much more charming and in keeping with the natural environment than fresh blacktop, and narrower is better than wider. And until we lose Gully Road, I would not be setting this up as an access road. I think it would be much better as a narrow footpath instead. And if blacktop were the preferred material for expense and for a DPW and so on, I would much rather see a gray pavement
Mhm.
version. I don't know whether that's embedding stones or if there's some other kind of treatment with it, but something that's softer than the harsh black that that blacktop ends up being. I don't think it necessarily has to be brick or concrete or a different material, but it's there's a softness to the gray that is there now. And also if it's wide and it's blacktop, I think there's going to be a lot more, it's like the perfect skateboard bike, people are going to
Yeah.
be flying down there as fast as they can, doing the daredevil thing. And the poor person who rounds the corner at the bottom, not expecting it. That's all.
Skateboarding is right. I mean, this would be perfect for that if they got it smoothed out.
So,
My friend Mike Acton and I named that road Collarbone Hill. Because when he was a kid, he rode his bike down the hill, and there was a rock that they'd paved over near the bottom. I think it's still there.
Still there.
He went
Yeah.
went over the handlebars and broke his collarbone. And happily there was a doctor living in Codfish Park, and Mike went home crying and they went to the doctor's house around the corner, and he set the collarbone. Now that's very nice, except the doctor was a veterinarian. Anyway, but I too like the idea of kind of keeping it bucolic. I do recall the huge fight that occurred more than 20 years ago about Middle Gully, and actually somebody grabbed one of the fire trucks and drove it through between the two houses at the top of the hill, and apparently grazed the side of the
Liberty Hall.
And they always complained that they'd knocked the house off the foundation. And I only know that because I had to crawl into the house to take pictures of the cracked foundation under the chimney.
Whoa.
Anyway, it was a big to do, and out of that, North Gully was left alone because of the houses at the top of that Mary was talking about. So as a thoroughfare, you're gonna have to hit a house. And I believe that's why they made Middle Gully the alternate access. So there is a history there.
And do you remember Bunny had a garden there, which they ran
Yes.
open?
Yeah.
Intentionally with a fire truck.
All right, this is Clement. I'm just gonna put in, since everybody's putting in their opinions. I think North Gully is quite a bit longer than Middle Gully, and the bricks are there, but you're right, they're not historic. I think a nice little, in my mind, it is the size of a sidewalk or even less. It's a 3-foot gray macadam mixture, whatever that is, that should go down and back. I know that when they're talking about a handrail, and now I'm hearing about everyone's escapades in their youth, the handrail should definitely go on the, I guess it would be the outside of the ocean side of North Gully, because all you daredevils would run right into the handrail if it were on the inside, and went around that corner. So put the handrail on the ocean side around the corner and make it a narrow pathway of a nice gray macadam or whatever that substance is.
What
Thanks.
would the handrail be made of?
The Middle Gully handrail is a
Wood.
wooden, I guess it's probably a 2x4 with a 2x4 on top. There's not much there. It's not much of a handrail.
That's,
But if they do that, that would be fine.
I agree.
Something that you see through, it's no big deal. There's a supporting post maybe every 4 feet and then a board on top. And I believe Middle Gully is painted green, but why paint it? Let's leave it gray.
Nice.
I think all that makes sense. Maybe hay bales at the bend.
So
I
for you,
believe, yeah, well, I believe
For-
Bill Belichick owns the property at the end, so.
Right.
oh, yes, yes. Well, just for Angus and Mary's benefit, I'll just read you the email from Lynn, because both Rob and Clement were copied on it. But it says, Holly, the Civic Association Board would like to see something that is not asphalt and is attractive and appropriate for the historic surroundings. Using brick is acceptable considering the path at Middle Gully, but we defer to SAB and your recommendation. I do think a handrail is warranted as the path is quite steep at one point. Thank you for taking the time to evaluate the right materials for the project. So I don't know, Rob, if you think it would be beneficial to ask Lynn to come to the next Sconset advisory, but we can continue this on the agenda, but obviously try to come up with a concrete recommendation. So that would be my recommendation.
Yeah, that would be great. Let's, is that okay with everybody to invite Lynn to be a
Sure.
part of these?
Very nice. That would
Yeah.
be,
That's great. I think the main thing is we don't want to have gravel because that could be slippery, but something that you can get traction on. But if it's too smooth, people are going to want to race down that.
Yep,
mhm.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we could just put up a handrail and leave it the way it is.
Yeah,
That'll fix that.
that's okay with me.
Yeah, right. Town will save money.
Yes.
Yeah.
We could suggest that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
Any other comments on it, on anything in particular?
I have
Make
one
a
comment.
motion to approve the comments.
This
Uh,
is Caroline.
Carolyn had something. Go
Right.
ahead, Carolyn.
This sign is missing.
Oh,
Really?
You mean on the agenda?
Yes. I think there was something else as well, but I know the sign is missing.
Broadway was on there for a long time,
Yeah, it
but
was a Broadway. Yeah. I haven't heard an update. I would have to talk to Kathy if she's been contacted by the contractor. If she signed off or, I have no idea what the status is. I'd have to ask.
So there was a motion to approve our comments made by Angus.
Seconded.
Thank you. All those in favor, Caroline Ellis,
Yes,
Mary Lathrop Will,
Yes,
Angus McLeod,
Aye.
Clement Durkis,
Yes.
Rob Benchley says yes. That's passed, and now here we are, motion to adjourn. I'll make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
I'll second that, Mary.
Thank you. Caroline Ellis,
yes.
Mary Lathrop Will,
Yes.
Angus McLeod,
Aye.
Clement Durkis,
Yes.
and I say yes too. It is unanimous. Thank you again, Holly. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
I
Thanks, everybody.
feel
Have a
pretty
good
good. We're
week.
making some progress on our own behalf, if that's okay to be doing that. There's a lot going on out there.
There is. Thank you all. Have a good day.